Hi, I'm Shakti Durga. Welcome to the Goddess Speaks podcast. This is a collection of discourses from the ancient goddess Artha, containing spiritual energy and activations and discussions of those discourses. I hope that the teachings are beneficial to you on your personal journey of enlightenment. It still amazes me when these discourses come through, even though it's been happening for years. I still get amazed by it. Anyway, Artha speaks. Namaste, beloved ones. Thank you for hearing the call and attending to this most interesting spiritual path that's been co-created by the consciousness of each one of you. Well, I bet you didn't know that it's a co-creation of all of us. I think that's so rich. It's heartening to see the devotion that each of you have to the path of spirituality and the richness of the desire that lives within your hearts for the divine experience and for the bliss of the divine. So there you go. The speed with which humanity rediscovers their divine origins and becomes one with the consciousness of the divine, little by little, peak experience by peak experience, integration by integration. All of this is under the control of the human, and the divine takes note of each and every human. All of the billions of humans that have existed and those who are presently upon the earth, for each one the divine has assigned the presence of angelic beings, guardians and guiding beings, to watch over and protect and nurture us. These beings serve tirelessly to assist each and every human from the moment of conception until the removal of the soul from the body is complete and the soul's journeyed back to its home realm. And even then, those guardian and guiding lights and angelic beings are there to greet and reassure every soul, because the transition from being embodied to being disembodied can only ever be experienced as somewhat of a surprise. And I'm sure that's true. When you think about it, it would be a bit of a surprise to wake up dead, wouldn't it? But anyway, isn't it nice to know that there's angelic beings there waiting for us? The nature of consciousness is at the root of the study that you're engaged within, the nature of consciousness. Consciousness can never be seen in its totality, but like a waterfall coming from a place that seems to move further away from you the higher you climb it, so that the very design of creation always places the flow of light and consciousness in a way that's unending. There's no beginning to the stream of consciousness, and nor will there be an end. So I think that's a fabulous thing for us to just think about for a moment, because in a lot of spiritual texts and paths, it's suggested that there is an end, that you do work, and then bing, you're finished. You're cooked and that's that. Whereas Artha is suggesting that it is an endless progression, and that certainly we might reach plateaus of exalted consciousness, which all of us have done at different times in different ways. We're all far more enlightened than the average person. There's no doubt about that. But I'm excited by the endlessness of it, and I think it keeps you humble as well. The metaphor of a circle is a good way to understand the phenomena of consciousness, but consciousness itself is beyond any real description. So there you go. We don't want you to have the concrete consciousness of some form of circle limiting you to the more expansive visions that can come from time to time and be shared with you. The sheer size of the circle of which we speak would go beyond your solar system and beyond the neighbouring solar systems. And so it's a vast thing compared to the size of a human. And so you need not be troubled by the thought of there being no beginning and no end to what could be seen as a vast circle. But the idea of a circle for us is a safety mechanism for the human mind to feel that no matter how far we fly high in consciousness, we're never going to pop out at the end and find ourselves in some kind of limbo land. And then Artha said, you can never go further than the light. However, as you travel into the light, understand that the light has a voltage, And the brighter the light, the stronger the voltage will be. Your system, being embodied as human, has as its base an electromagnetic infrastructure. And that electromagnetic body cannot be allowed to be destabilized by the flow of light, and thus incremental changes to the flow are the optimal changes. And this will be within the setting of peak experiences, as you yourself have already experienced. Not only is your physical body, your physiology, rooted into electromagnetic realities, but so is the astral body and the etheric body and even the soul itself. So I found that fascinating. That's all electromagnetic. It's all made out of energy. It's made out of consciousness. And the electromagnetic energy flows through this consciousness, creating forms. And the forms are intricate and geometric. And we see that geometry when we look at crystals. Some crystals have a geometry of 4 or 8, and most of them have a geometry of 6, like clear quartz does. And you see that when you look at the top of a clear quartz crystal. The forms that are made by the light and the electromagnetic energy flowing through consciousness creates forms which are intricate and geometric. And at times the geometry seems to be frayed. And the fraying of the geometry gives rise to incarnations in the physical world. The fraying of the geometry of light of the soul gives rise to the incarnations that you're now experiencing. There is something undone for you to contribute your time, your energy, and your focus to the doing of that will create wonderful electromagnetic charges going back to your soul. And whilst it's no doubt true in your heart as well as in the eternal play, that there is a level of the soul that's even beyond the form of light and geometry, that part of your soul is so inchoate that to even speak of it as self is a misunderstanding, for it is the one in all. It's the one in all. The part of the soul of which this discourse is directed is the part that evolves, that has a personality, has preferences, has strengths, has patterns of experience over time. And those patterns of experience over time give rise to stunning harmonics. For your soul is not just geometry of light, but also geometries of sound. It's a frustration to the human condition that it does appear as though some things in our life are insoluble, that the same patterns occur again and again. And while the work is directed at these patterns of which you're all aware within your own beings, some seem unable to be resolved. That is not the highest level of truth, but it is a practical level of truth, that you're all playing out certain geometries and frequencies emanating from your soul, and they will become perfected. So that's good news. Eventually they will become perfected. And when that happens, there's no more fraying in that part of the geometry of your soul when you play the divine Leela of this part of a cycle in accordance with the divine laws. So all of that's quite exciting, don't you think? I've never thought about it that way before. To think about the soul having a geometry that's fraying makes perfect sense of why you have to come in and be exposed to situations again and again through which you have the opportunity to perfect that which has not been perfected before. And straight away I think of some of the strengths of the soul, that we might be really good at some of them and some of them we haven't really got a handle on. We might be good at self-discipline, but we mightn't be so great at forgiveness or gratitude or whatever it is. And there's a fraying in the soul that the pressure will be on us in our life to attend to that. And similar things will come up again and again until we do. So there you go. I like the mental imagery of that through the cycles you have to work through, you're fixing the fraying. Anyway, back to Arthur. You will recall from your study of divine laws that such matters as flow, non-attachment, non-judgment, the law of economy, and the law of correspondence are all relevant to one's experience of life, providing you with the truth of the tasks in life. That to the ego, the reasserting of control over one's circumstance is the purpose of life. To have the solid foundation of time and money, that's the purpose of life. To have control and security. To have the freedom to do what I want and not be told what to do. But from the perspective of the soul, this is all a leela. For there is an abiding universal law that flows through all beings, and all of the leelas and classrooms created by the divine, all of the plays of consciousness within which you find yourself, are constructed by the energetic charge of the combination of all of the spiritual laws operating as one. And that is Dharma. It's this to which you're directed in consciousness. And the study of Dharma will probably take 5 or 10 years of earth time. So buckle up, everyone. The teachings of the Dharma require a steadfastness and commitment to one's spiritual path as the central part of life. And the teachings can't be given as one because of the various forms of fraying of the consciousness of the higher soul that you're here to resolve. But it is not control over that will resolve these things. More, it is flowing with Dharma. And the many, many levels, intricate levels, sometimes you might say confusing cross currents of Dharma are presented to you. And it's difficult at times to appreciate what the truth of Dharma might be. But all will be revealed. And the points of confusion are merely the classroom of the moment. And one may approach such a classroom at any vibration. One may be curious, one may be excited, or one may feel shame, or any other of the many realms of vibration that are open to the human condition. Any of them can be the place at which you meet a dharmic classroom. And I would also add that you only meet a dharmic classroom when things are going wrong, and there's decisions to be made and things to be fixed, and the ego's resistance to doing that. And the ego is wanting power and control, and all of the ego's needs to be met, which is the way the leelas come up. And then our dharmic duty. Fascinating stuff. It's also true, says Arthur, that many of the classrooms have been presented already, and some have gone unobserved, as one cannot in all consciousness and even in conscience as it develops, appreciate sometimes that there is even a wrong to be righted because we're so unaware while we're embodied in the human condition. Fascinating, don't you think? And I also think this plays into our shadow, that we're unaware of what's in our shadow and of the wrongs that are being created by that part of us. Just noticed a couple of questions come in. How do you interpret fraying? Well, I have a vision of a beautiful, complex geometry that is my soul, that's really beautiful, and your soul and everyone's soul. But there's a bit at the edge that's frayed, where the geometry is broken down, and it's a bit chaotic around some edge area. And I can see little bits kind of dripping off it and then dripping down to start a physical life whereby whatever is the consciousness element of that fraying, and it might be, I don't believe in myself. It might be I'm not good enough. It might be the I don't belong stuff. It might be that you've just never really understood what compassion means, or that you're taking things for granted is so taken for granted that you don't know that you're lacking appreciation or gratitude for other people and what they might be trying to help you with, or what you have. You don't have the gratitude. There's a fraying where there should be a blob of gratitude creating part of the geometry of your splendid soul. Or think of any of the other strength of the soul cards or virtue cards. There could be something not there. It could be that there's a lack of courage in some area. I see it as a multidimensional fraying. It's not like your body's frayed in the physical sense, but your soul body is. I think there's fraying wherever we accept the vision of reality that the ego holds over the vision of reality that the soul holds. And I think that that's what, at the end of the day, would be my clarity about it. Wherever, when push comes to shove, you choose the path of your ego over the path of all of the spiritual laws combined, which equals Dharma. So you've got forgiveness, you've got non-attachment, you've got love. Whenever you choose control, whenever you choose to be shut down in the face of one of those classrooms, whenever you let anger get the better of you and there's no apology, there's no rectification, there's just let's pretend it all didn't happen, you are increasing the fraying in the soul. And it's only with contemplation and rectification that these things get mended. And then the mending creates rose gardens of beauty in your soul, if I can put it that way. And the geometries keep getting more intricate. And it unfolds, your soul's growth unfolds and becomes more and more intricate and so on. When healing the soul and we bring back parts of our soul from other situations, lifetimes, etc., then are we rebuilding that geometry? I believe we are. Because we lose fragments of that geometry in the messes that we've made in other lives and in this one and haven't cleaned up yet. So the cleaning up the mess business is something the soul loves, whereas the ego just can't be bothered. It would rather get on with building some splendid edifice to itself. And the ego loves being right. That thing about, I have to be right, which is inculcated early in people in their lives, and that it's weakness to be wrong. It's weak. That's a problem on the spiritual path because you'll put your ego ahead of Dharma. So Dharma is something we're going to spend the next 5 to 10 years learning about. So the question that said, what is Dharma? I thought it was duty. I would say duty is a very summarized version of what Dharma is. It's the duty to mend the fraying of your soul and thus be the most splendid person you could be. And sometimes your ego's not going to like that. So I'll just go back over that last paragraph because I think it's important. It's true that many of the classrooms in which we have the Leela of learning how to fix our soul have been presented to us already, but some have gone unobserved as one cannot in our consciousness or even through our conscience as it develops, even appreciate that there's a wrong to be righted because we're so unaware while embodied in the human condition. And that also speaks to the new biology that says 95% of what's going on around us is held in our subconscious and not our conscious mind. So that really fits. But as your consciousness is drawn towards a particular topic, it becomes more visible to you, and the vast potentials of the future will part in such a way that it will be more of the landscape for the coming years, as in once you engage with a classroom and you actually realise, you know what, I really have to work on humility, or I really have to work on forgiveness. Whatever your thing is, it's almost like the veils part and the future comes to you in a way that will give you the opportunity to do just that and to conquer it. For truly, beloved, said Artha, the fabric of that which separates you from the rest of creation, which is called your ego, is comprised of matter and non-physical substance that responds to Dharma. And the final freeing of the bondage of reincarnation and the permanent diamond light of consciousness to which you are working is enlivened and empowered by the further appreciation of Dharma over time and through experience. So there I get the sense that Dharma becomes finer and finer the more we work with it. Dharma taking us into consciousness areas that are more and more and more refined that we wouldn't have even noticed before because it's too fine. There are times when this will appear to be frustrating or too exacting or splitting hairs, or hard work, or requiring surrender. And all of that is no doubt true. But it is the narrow road through which moksha becomes possible for beings in the human condition. And while this is a journey that continues in the afterlife, the deep and profound satisfaction for your soul and for those souls who have been able to work out the bondage of Dharma within the life, there's such exaltation and such general universal celebration because attaining moksha within your physical life is so rare. It's most often the case with the human souls that the final portions of their remembrance of the fullness of themselves happens in planes other than the physical. There is an ocean, an army of souls who, near the nadir of their existence, are coming back into the oneness again with a consciousness of the whole of creation. So they're close, an army of souls who are close. And this work proceeds beyond your mind, beyond your consciousness, but within the consciousness of the loving heart of the divine. Those beings who are close are able to be called upon for their treasury of wisdom, for this portion of incompleteness is the creativity of the divine and of each soul. When the incompleteness ceases, so does the creative power of the soul. For to be perfected means, then, to be static. But some souls choose this, for their then focus becomes the veneration of the divine within that consciousness and the everlasting bliss that is attributed to one such as Lord Jesus, who's said to sit at the right hand of the Father. Sitting at the right hand of the Father is a Kabbalistic teaching concerning the Sephra of Binah. And Binah is the container or form of all things supernal. Supernal means of the soul realm, the higher soul realm. And thus Lord Jesus is the container of all things supernal. It did not say sit beside the divine, but was specific about the right hand. Binah is the container from which flows a river of goodness. And this too is your destiny, and souls will choose the level of attainment that they desire. And one should not think that these things are cookie cutter, for the individuation between souls is part of the beauty of the divine plan, even though the Dharma becomes something that links all souls and becomes a joy for all to behold. And breathing in these words and let the vibration come into your heart and crown chakra to open new paradigms for you of opportunity whilst you enjoy this blessed life. I think this is a very important discourse. Is the choice made before incarnation, or is the decision being continually made as the physical life progresses? And I think there's a bit of both. I think that everything is in the eternal moment of now. It's an unfolding. It just is an unfolding. And everything you think, everything you say, everything you do, every attitude, every vibrational choice of every moment causes a ripple in the force, and it creates a change in your circumstance. Every time you blink, remember those teachings about every time you blink, the world's changed? Can I please explain the bit about souls becoming perfected? What Arthur is saying is that souls continue to evolve and evolve and evolve and evolve and evolve and evolve and evolve, and then they get to be part of an ocean of souls who have near perfect attainment, but not perfect attainment. It's near perfect. It means that they're already exemplary and extraordinary. And then they decide, you know what? I've got the bliss of the divine. I have boundless love in my heart. I've got amazing consciousness flowing through me. I feel connected to all these other beings. I'm in the presence of the divine. I'm done. So then the angels kind of close off the last bits of the geometry for you, and that becomes your diamond body, becomes your everlasting body. So that's a permanent vehicle, like Lord Jesus is said to sit at the right hand of the Father, which is Bina, which is a container of divine. So we become a container of divine, but there is a personality, there is a difference between the illumined soul of one great sage or master compared to another great sage or master. There's differences. We know that from having met a number of them. And other souls might get to that same level of perfection and go, you know what? I'm up for more. I'm up for more. So they come back for more. And there's more subtlety put ahead of them because the divine consciousness and light is endless. I want more. I want more. I want to create more, 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 more. And I think the story of Metatron is one where Metatron went, I want more, I want more, I want more than anyone else did, if you see what I mean. And I think Metatron, who used to be Enoch, turned into Metatron, the highest angel. That's the highest one that's ever happened. So you can imagine all these amazing intricacies of diamond light with vast and beautiful multicoloured geometries of light and sound, all different harmonics of sound flowing through them because they're constructed in slightly different ways. Some souls, at this level, I'm really happy, I'm content. This is my place in the sun. And they become part of Bina like that, as that individual. And I don't think it's a better than, less than, more than, worse than. I'm trying to put language to something that's pretty ineffable. But it's always about having a choice. And then it's about saying, in the fullness of the consciousness of this soul, this is where I want to be. I'm happy here. If I never had anything else happen, I feel full and complete. I feel one with everything. I'm done. And then the angels just finish the geometry for you. So there's nothing imbalanced that creativity would balance up. So our creativity depends upon there being an imbalance, which we can go, you know what? That's not right. I want to make that better. And then we balance it up. That's the nature of creativity. Makes sense? Who would you expect to find seated at the left hand of the Father? Someone with asbestos trousers. By which I mean the left hand of the divine is eternal flame and fire. The only one I would ever expect to see sitting there would be Lord Shiva, who is the eternal flame in a way. That would be a fiery place to sit because that's the place where there's incoming of even more light, even more, endlessly more. Voltage, fire, flame, all that. So no one sits there. That's not the place of sitting. That's the place of expanding. The whole left side of the tree is about expansion, whereas the right side of the tree is about form. So we don't finish on the left side, we finish on the right side. To put language to this, to try and put language to it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Goddess Speaks. If so, please share it with your friends and your family so they can benefit too. If you'd like to connect with me, visit my website, shaktidurga.com.